Okay, so we are in Mishlei 15:15. Okay, this pasuk is a little it's not as straightforward to translate as I would have expected. Kol yemei ani ra'im v'tov lev mishte tamid. How would you translate that?
All the days of a
All
poor
the
man
days.
are
All the days, all the days of yeah,
bad. Of a poor man
yep, of a poor man
are bad,
are bad. Okay, good. V'tov lev mishte tamid.
and someone who is always feasting is happy.
Interesting. Okay, so that'd be one way to translate it. Let me just do. Let's go with like this. Let's go translation A. Okay, I actually think that's the. I can't prove this, but I think that's the less intuitive translation. So let me just do this here. All the days of poor men are bad, but you said one who is feasting all the time is happy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, one who is feasting all the time is happy. Okay, fine. So then, what would be another way to translate the second half? Yeah, Isaac.
One who is good of heart, whatever that means,
Yeah.
is, I don't know if you would say feasting or drinking constantly.
Yeah, yeah, is feasting constantly. Yeah. I think that's the way that the majority of the meforshim take it. Okay. I mean I can see why Moshe gets his, but certainly in terms of the order of the pasuk, it does sound I think the translation A is a smoother reading. Yeah. All right. So
Totally sounds like the noun.
yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, but we'll see. Not even everyone does that. Now, Sadigon has an interesting one. Okay. His translation is Kol yemei chalush hada'as ra'im, v'tov halev mishte tamid. Okay. Oh, sorry. V'tov havu kilu nakud shuruk v'lo cholam. Okay. So he says like, yeah. So all. So how's he translating the pasuk here?
All the
Yeah.
is it all like the weak-minded? All the
Yeah.
weak-minded.
All the days of the
All the
weak-minded.
days of the
Seems like Ezra's having some connection issues here. Also, I'm sensing that there's a slight delay also, but we'll hopefully he'll work that out because all days of weak-minded are bad, and then v'tuv halev mishte tamid, right? So does that make it into what's the difference between tov lev and tuv halev? Or is my connection the one that's bad?
the goodness of the heart.
Okay, yeah. But the goodness of heart, and I feel like you have to insert some sort of um verb in there, okay? Whether is or I guess causes one to be let's just say is for now, okay? Is a perpetual feast. Okay. Right. Now, does anyone know where he gets Ani as Chalush Hadas from? Because that seems way more like an interpretation than a translation. Which you could say, but I feel like I feel like he's referencing something that I feel like he's referencing two things that one is more well known and one is less well known. So two statements of Chazal.
It seems to me like it might be like maybe he's learning it as like the opposite of tov lev.
Okay, good, right. So according to that, what would you how I guess how would you translate Tovlev or Tuvlev actually he's saying?
Goodness of the mind.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. Oops, sorry, hold on, weak-minded. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so that is actually a better thing than I was gonna say. All right, so then it would be Tuvlev is goodness of the mind, okay, and then and Ani would be weakness of the mind, right? Okay. Yeah. Anyone else have a different place where you might be getting this from? What's the other, I guess, translation of Tovlev or the understanding of Tovlev? Like
On like intelligent.
yeah, so I think that's the way that Isaac's taking it, is that it's intelligence, okay? But like let's say like I feel like most of the time in Tanakh, um, it says it in the way that I'm about to say. Let's see,
Like
Tovlev.
timed.
Say again.
Kind-hearted.
Is it used that way? Let's just check this out.
I
I
would
would
say
say,
like the simcha of it to live.
yeah, exactly, right. I would say simcha, which is how Moshe translated it the first time of happy, or glad. What did Moshe say?
Yeah, happy.
Yeah, happy, right. Right. So yeah, let's see here. Like Kitov Lev Hamelech Bayayin, right? I thought this was gonna be more common here. Yeah, right. Vayochel Boaz Vayitav Libo, right? And it does not mean that his mind became good. It means that he became happy, or yeah, I feel like in Esther, right? Bayom Hashvi Ketov Lev HaMelech Bayayin, right? Vayitze Haman Bayom Ahu Sameach V'Tov Lev, right? So I think happy is good. Okay, so uh yeah, so okay, so here's that's a possibility also. I'll tell you what I thought of, which is that if okay, well, I'll tell you what I associate to. I don't know if this is actually where he's getting it from. So Amar Abaye, is this in Nadarim Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, which I only know because I think this is quoted fairly frequently in stuff about Das. Amar Abaye Naktinan. So we have a saying, Ein ani ela b'dea. There's no ani except in Das. Okay, meaning that when you call someone poor, it means that you have lack in your Das. B'ma'arava Amri, and then in the West we say the dabe kulabe, the lo dabe mabe. Okay, it's kind of a fun little rhyming proverb here. So the person who has knowledge in him has everything in him, but someone who has no knowledge in him, what is in him? Okay, meaning like the only real good is knowledge, in the sense that it's all you need. All other goods come from knowledge, and if you don't have knowledge, then it doesn't matter what else you have. You're not going to be able to yeah, it's not going to be of any value. Okay, and then it ends off kane ma. Wait, how do I punctuate this? Wait, lo dabe mabe. Da kane ma chasar, da lo kane ma kane. So if a person acquired knowledge, then what does he lack? And if he didn't acquire knowledge, what can he attain? Okay, yeah, so Rashi said, or the Miuchas Rashi says, Dadabe kulabe, mi sheish bo da'as, k'mi sheish bo hakol, she'in nechsar klum. Right, so someone who has knowledge, it's like he has everything, and he's not lacking anything. And then da kane ma chaser, mish kana da'as, ino chaser klum. Yeah, so I don't know why I associate to this rather than the way you guys are saying, because I think you guys are making a good argument from the pasuk, but I'm associating to just the idea that sometimes ani, according to Chazal, just as Ashir, according to Chazal, has to do with Sameach B'chalko, which might be related to this, then a lot of times Chazal will say that Ani is talking to intellectual poverty and not monetary poverty. Okay. Targum says Kol Yomei Miskana Bishin, all the days of the poor person are bad. Uman de Tavli Be Mashkia Tadira. Okay, I think that's just a straight up translation. All right, so let's go with the English translations here. So I did not have my altar on me, so I had to look. Oop, I forgot to look up Rav Hirsch. Oh, actually, no, I think it's important to look up Rav Hirsch. Hold, give me 1 second. I have a feeling he's gonna say something different. Okay, so 15, 143. Okay, so Rav Hirsch. Oh. Okay, yes, this is interesting. All the days of the poor. Oops, sorry, I'm in Hebrew. All the days of the poor are wretched. But if he has a good heart, his meal is a festive one always. Okay, so that's a much narrower scope here. All the days of the poor are wretched. I feel like wretched is just a fancy way of saying like bad, but in an experiential way. I don't actually know what the definition of wretched is. Wretched. Yeah, very unhappy or unfortunate state. Okay. But if he has a good heart, okay, so he's also taking it as an adjective of the person. His meal is a festive one always. Mishte. So I guess he's just adding in then his meal is a mishteh tamid. So he's learning mishteh as an adjective, right? His meal is mishteh tamid, yeah. And then since I don't have altar, I use the JPS. All the days were permanent rest, but contentment is a feast without end. Right? So I think that's another interesting one as well, which is I think that's why I also didn't I didn't think about what you guys were saying when you said tuv leiv. I think tuv leiv can also mean contentment, right? In the sense of tov leiv meaning gladness. So let's actually keep all these translations up here, but I'll move them above ours. Yeah. And you know what? I think I'm gonna keep Moshe's translation on here, but I'm gonna cross it out just because no one that I've seen has said it that way. And it also, I mean, not that this is a reason to reject a translation, but it does make it seem more problematic that like if this was in Koheles, I'd be more likely to say that it means that if you're feasting all the time, then you're happy. I don't think really Mishlei indicates that, So it's I can't say it's wrong, but yeah. All right. So what are the questions here? Obviously, we have the questions implicit in our translation of ani, which is what is the meaning of ani in this context? Yeah, Moshe? 11 or not? Okay.
Oh yes, yeah. For the, I think it was the Rav Hirsch, when he specifies his feast, that's different than is always, what was it?
Rehearse said his meal is a festive one always.
Right. So that makes it seem like specifically the poor is also having a feast as well. So I'm wondering,
Right.
is there maybe could it be understand the pasuk as only the good person or the happy person having a meal versus both of them having a kind of meal?
Okay, so I'm gonna actually ask that question with a structural emphasis, which is, are the people or qualities in the two halves of the pasuk mutually exclusive? Okay, like most of our translations indicate or imply, or can they I guess can the second half, I guess, can the person or quality in the second half be I guess embodied by the ani in the first half? And the only reason
Yeah.
I'm changing the question is because I think this is just casting a wider net in terms of how you read the pasuk. And meaning, I guess the question here also is like, what decision-making scenario are we talking about? And this is not our usual question, which is just to elaborate here, is this talking about a state, like, is this talking about like the normal state of every human being, or is this specifically talking about two ways that an ani can experience his lot? And that's like Rav Hirsch. Yeah. Yeah, Ezra?
Yeah, is Mishneh Tamid a good thing necessarily?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question also. What does Mishteh Tamid mean? Okay, in what sense is the Tov, I guess, in what sense is the Tov Leiv equated with Mishteh Tamid? And is Mishteh Tamid necessarily a good thing, right? Like on the one hand, it's fun, but on the other hand, this seems more like a I'm gonna make up a word here, Ahasuerusian value than a Torah value. Yeah. Yeah. Ezra Koppel, I assume.
Yeah, sorry for not adding
That's okay,
last
that's
name.
fine.
Is this true? Are all the
Right.
days of the poor person bad?
Yeah, that's a good
And
question.
is it a continual feast for the Tov Lev?
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. So let's say so I think the way I want to ask this here is, to what extent is this, literally true? Okay. Is, are all the days of the ani bad? And is the Tov Lev experiencing a mishteh all the time? Or is this hyperbolic? Yeah. Which we know is definitely a style in Mishlei. And I'm not saying those are the only two options, but yeah. I guess let me just let me put the emphasis on the language here. Okay, is what do we make of the absolutist language of kol yamim and tamid, right? Yeah. Yeah, Moshe Kappel.
If it's also, can it be possible that that it's an ani in the second half?
Right. Yeah. So that I'm intending to include here, which is this specifically talking about two ways that an ani? Yeah. Actually, let me just make this even broader. Is this talking about two decisions that confront the ani specifically? Yeah. Yeah. Ezra Fader. I saw your hand, I thought.
Yeah, is it necessarily, and that's my other question, should you always be Tov Lev? Or is it
Okay,
saying
right.
that even? I'm not sure.
I mean, the song says Simcha Gedola Leos Simcha Tamid, or Mitzvah Gedola Leos. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I always have that question when I hear that statement. Okay. Yeah, Tov Lev. So did we ask what Tov Lev means yet? I don't think we did. So what does Tov Lev mean? Okay. Is this an adjective? Okay. A glad-hearted person. Okay, so actually let's break this down. Hold on a second here. Okay. So what does Tov Lev mean? Does Lev mean heart, emotions, or mind, intellect? Okay, or something in between, or something else. Okay. Then we've got does Tov refer to some objective perfection, or to a, I guess, subjective, emotional, I guess, subjective or relative, state? I know that kind of sounds like emotions inherently, but maybe this question only applies to the Lev option. And then is Tov Lev an adjective, a glad-hearted person, or a noun? Okay, gladness of heart. Okay, and then now we can ask Ezra's question, which is it necessarily a good thing to be Tov Lev all the time? And I don't even know if I'll say, is the pasuk even suggesting that, right? Or is it just saying that if you are Tov Lev, then you'll experience mishteh tamid. That could be the other option as well. I mean, I think compared to the first half, then I think it does seem to imply. Actually, I don't even know about that, because the first half is descriptive, right? It's not saying that it should be bad. It's just saying, factually speaking, all the days of the ani are going to be bad, but it's not necessarily advocating. Yeah. I think here the question of practicality is particularly important. What is the practical application? Okay, meaning, how does one become Tov Lev? Yeah, Tov Lev. And is the pasuk even telling us this? Yeah, and I say, is the pasuk even telling us this, because it might just be saying, like, yeah, this is a good quality to have, but there's other pasukim that tell you how to be Tov Lev. Like, for example, if Tov Lev does mean what Sadigon said, that it's talking about, or sorry, if Ani means what Sadigon said, which is weak-minded, and Tov Lev would mean like having a perfected mind, then our pasuk is not telling you how to perfect your mind, right? That's many other pasukim, like was the last one we did. Actually, let's actually just look at the last one we did also, just to see. We are in 15. Yeah, right. So the last one was Lev Navon Yavakesh Das U Fixilim Yira Iveles. So that was talking about how to acquire knowledge. And then this one, oh, that might also be why Sadigon got this, right? Because in the context, the last puzzle was talking about gaining knowledge. So in other words, Sadigon might be taking these two psukim as opposites, in like a broader sense, that the Lev Navon looks for Das, whereas the Ksilim don't. And then if you don't have Das, then this is going to be an effect. And if you do have Das, then this is going to also be an effect. What does this little footnote say? Oh, yeah. All right. I think we noticed that last time. Okay. Yeah. We did not ask about Ra'im yet, right? What in what sense are the days of an ani, or in what sense do we mean Ra'im? Yeah. Side note here, I was just thinking about this because I think about this all the time. That it is it's a pet peeve of mine when people translate Ra in Torah as evil. And it's an unfortunate feature of English, I think, that in Hebrew you can say Ra, and Ra could either mean bad, evil, inferior, harmful, feeling bad. It's much broader in meaning. Whereas in English, you can say bad, which I guess is the best that we can do, but oftentimes the impulse is to commit to one of those translations. So, for example, I think most people translate Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra as the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and I don't think that's a good translation. I mean, I think that evil is part of what we mean by Ra, but that's not really the case. And or like, I feel like a lot of English translations, when people will say like when they talk about the Hashem bringing Ra'ah upon people, I think they'll say evil, but I think that's like a theologically bad way to say it. Like, it just means like something that is perceived as bad, So I think it's good that the Hebrew word Ra has that like I get multivalency, like multiple meanings. Okay. Do we have all the questions here? Yeah, Ezra?
Is it possible the pasuk isn't even telling you to be a Tovlev, but it's just telling you someone who is Tovlev will be Mishta Tamid?
Okay, so that's a good question. Let me go back to my question about the practicality. Right. How does one become a Tovlev? Is the pasuk even telling us this? Is the pasuk even telling us to be a Tovlev? Or is it just describing a benefit of someone who is naturally Tovlev? But the question you have to ask there is, and if so, what is the pasuk's practical application? Yeah, Ezra?
Is it warning us against being an ani?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like, who's the target audience?
Likewise, is this telling us, is this warning us about another detriment of being an ani? Or is it just describing his state? Yeah, that's a great question also, because, you would think that, well, obviously you shouldn't be an ani, and that might be true, but there are times when you have to like calculate, is it best to be an ani? Like, pas b'melech tochal u'mayim b'mishur tishte v'al tishan, v'chayitzar tichye v'torah ta'amil. Is that the whole thing? I don't know. That like, sometimes becoming, involved in Torah means making huge financial sacrifices. People who become a teacher. Yeah, Isaac.
I don't think we asked this. What are the opposites in this topic? Like,
right.
Like typically the opposite of ani is ashir.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So let's.
Like, I don't know what the opposite of totally would
I'm
be.
gonna actually,
broadly.
because of that, I'm gonna move this question over here, and then say, what are the opposites? Usually the opposite of ani is ashir. Okay, which is not mentioned in this pasuk, which seemingly is seemingly not mentioned in this pasuk. Okay. And then what else do you say as a by way of opposite?
Yeah, I was saying, I don't know what the opposite of tov leaf would be, but maybe like raw,
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering here also is ani being contrasted with mishte tamid, and then tov lev is contrasted with ra'im.
Oh, I was learning it as ra'im as the opposite of mishte tamid.
Right, yeah, that's why I'm not sure. Yeah, I could see both ways. So let's say here, I'll just add that as a question here, which is is ani being contrasted with tov lev or with mishte tamid? And I kind of sense that maybe you would get a different idea if you treated one or the other as the opposite. Yeah, Isaac?
I have a rhyming translation.
Oh yeah, okay, good.
Yeah. All the days of the poor person are bad.
All the days of a poor person are bad. I can
But
see where this is going.
yeah. But a constant party for one whose heart is glad.
Party for I feel like syllabically we need to like cut something here. For I'll say one whose heart is glad. Yeah. Yeah. All the days of the poor are bad.
Yeah.
Constant party for
For
a heart that's glad.
heart is glad. Yeah. So I was gonna.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, good. Yeah. I think I mentioned this once, but I don't know how many for the last like maybe 5 years I've been trying mostly for the sake of Tehillim and Tefilah to get more into like appreciating poetry in a not in a like academic study way, but just like, accustoming myself to like poetic reading and thinking. And I used to feel really like whenever I saw a translation of poetry from another language into English that rhymes, I would always like look askance at it because I feel like it's definitely making compromises because clearly the author of the poem in the original language did not intend for it to rhyme in English. But then I started realizing that like in order to translate poetry, you need to be a poet. And part of the art of translating poetry is making it poetic in the English language, which is why I do like Alter's translation, because Alter does try, especially when in the Torah's songs and poetry, he tries to preserve as much of the poesy as possible. So I think that this is another reason why like I'm not just asking Isaac for the rhyming translations for kicks, even though I do get a kick out of it. But I think that it does kind of force your mind to probe the poetry of the pasuk a little bit. And Mishlei is a poetic thing. I mean, Mishlei is a shira. And so it's not inappropriate to do what he's doing here. Yeah, Ezra Koppel.
I have an approach.
Okay, yeah, I
before-
think we're up
Thanks,
to that. Let me just think one more time if there's anything else that we're missing here. Yeah, I do want to ask also, I'm just trying to think where to put this here. Yeah, I'm actually just going to tack this onto here. Furthermore, so what? Okay, meaning, are we being, is this pasuk assuming that that the Ra and Tov Lev or Mishte Tamid are ends in and of themselves, or are they a means to another end, or is the pasuk not taking a stance on that? Similar to Ezra's question about is Mishte Tamid like necessarily a good thing? Yeah, okay, Ezra, you have an approach.
Yeah, so I'm approaching it with the subject of the pasuk being one's outlook on life.
Hmm.
And
I actually want to add that as a separate question here. What
Yeah.
is the subject of the pasuk? Okay, yeah.
so if the subject of the pasuk is your outlook on life, if you are like only being poor of mind, like you're not smart enough to have a good outlook, or you I don't know if it's like really intelligence that really
Right.
stops you from it, but for whatever reason you can't get to there, and you have a pessimistic outlook, or you view everything that happens to you as bad, because everyone has both good fortune and bad fortune.
Right.
And if you only focus on the bad fortune, then like you're gonna view your life as like every single day is bad. Um,
Right.
and on the flip side, if you have an optimistic outlook on life, and you have both good and bad going on, but you only focus on the good, that's what you choose to dwell on, then you'll look back on like your life as if it was just one continual good feast.
Okay. All right. So I think that's a good approach. So the first half is talking about someone who is an ani, poor of mind, and lacking the das to have a good outlook on his life, perhaps because he pessimistically focuses on the sorry uh everyone has good and bad fortune in some mixture, and this guy focuses on the bad to the point where it colors his entire experience. In contrast, the Tov Lev focuses on the good, and that colors the rest of his experience when he looks back on it. Yeah, okay. I also, this is making me want to ask, or did we already ask this one? I'm saying, oh no, we already asked what Mishlei Tamid is. Yeah, yeah. So this is an interesting thing, because give me 1 second. I don't know if this is a new question, so I'm going to kind of cram it into the practical application question, which is, give me 1 second. Maybe this should be a different question. I'm going to say, what is the timeline? And the timeline is the wrong word.
You're saying on like the looking back part?
Yeah. When do these results happen? Like, is this is the pasuk describing, a real-time phenomenon of how these people experience like life from moment to moment, or is this more of a big picture a big picture feeling they get when they reflect on their life as a whole? And I think both readings can fit into the pasuk. Like, I think Mishneh Tamid to me suggested it feels like he's constantly partying, but I think Kol Yamei does imply a certain like looking at all the days of your life, and you could look at Mishneh Tamid in that framework. Yeah. Okay, so my only question is, and this is not a knockout question or anything like that, is I feel like this fits in with Kol Yimei Ani Ra'im, because Ra is like a judgment value that you would have on your on all your days. But I feel like this interpretation needs a little bit more nuance to explain why he goes to the specificity of Mishneh Tamid, as opposed to just like all his days are good.
So I think that a lot of times it's easy to say like, oh, there was some good and some bad. Like overall, like okay, fine, it was a net gain day, it was a good day. But no one would classify it as like a party. But that's like I think one step above is to like actually classify it as like, wow, this was like an excellent experience. I think like a Mishnah kind of captures that.
Right.
Um,
Okay, so the reason why it says Mishneh is because he's emphasizing that it's not just like baseline good, but superlatively good.
you're
Yeah.
missing a not there.
Oh, it's not just baseline good. Thank you. Yeah, Ezra Fader, you want to add to that? Or you have a different idea?
Maybe another answer is that Mishneh Tamid could be exactly the thing that one person would think an Ani would never have.
Okay,
So it's
right.
saying he does have that.
Okay, right. Alternatively, it uses Mishneh Tamid because that looks like an enjoyment that the Ani that is completely missing from, or that is completely inaccessible to an ani. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think this is good. I think the only question then is, let's just talk about this question now, even though the puzzle might not be saying it, is practically speaking, how do we do this? Right? I think I think there are trite ways of saying this, like chin up, or the glass is always half full, and there are also trite ways that sound trite, but they actually do work. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Yeah, I'm gonna assume. I guess you guys aren't really familiar with my system. Okay, so my system for Zoom shiurim is, if you have your hand up, that means you have a separate idea, but like that you're waiting in line to say. But if you want to comment on what is being said right now, let me see if I never use these things. You do what we call, I don't know if hold on a second, how do you do it? How do you do reactions and stuff?
React button. There's
Oh.
a Control Shift Y is a shortcut. You can also
Control Shift Y. Why am I? Yeah, the party sign. Yeah, that's how you do it. Right.
Oh, the party sign is actually the one for
Yeah, that's the one.
right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, so for this, I don't know if the pasuk actually has any practical ways of achieving this.
Yeah.
But if I can plug a book, I have a I think it's called Happiness.
4,000 Weeks?
No, Happiness in the Face of Adversity.
Okay. Oh, yes, I think it is.
I think, I mean, I've only gone through 1 or 2 chapters, but
yeah, me too.
it does kind of address this.
Right. Yeah, I do think that is a good book on how to become happy. I've read the
I've read it. It does address it.
What was that?
I've read the whole thing. It definitely addresses it.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. So there's a good book plug. I'll have to remember to add a link to the show notes. Yeah. Anyone else have any other strategies here? No. I would say
that might be
what was that?
elsewhere in Mishlei. I think that's elsewhere in Mishlei, but maybe this is just talking about the, overall, there's a bird's eye view about personal approach.
Yeah, right. So that I do acknowledge that the puzzle might not be telling us exactly how, and just leaving it to the rest of the Mishlei. I do want to have a plug here for gratitude practices. This was one of the ideas that where did we get this from in my modem share recently? Oh yeah, in modem, in modem, the Abu Dharam says, hold on, let me just quote it actually here. Okay, Siddur Shachris Amidah Hoda'a Abu Dharam. So he quotes this gematria that Vitimsa ki modim ola b'minyan mea. Modim adds up to 100 in gematria. Lirmos, to allude to the fact shanachnu modim lo b'mea brachos b'chol yom, that we give thanks to God 100 times with 100 brachos each day. Okay. So the question is, what's the idea of the gematria, right? So I was happy about this because I applied Rabbi Feder's method and came up with the same idea that he did when I asked him, which is that Rabbi Feder's basic method, correct me if I'm wrong, is that and this is not a chazal, by the way. I think this is maybe from one of the Hasidei Ashkenaz. I don't know who first came up with this, but the idea is that chazal deploy gematrias when there is a quantitative aspect to the idea, and it's not just a concept. So the explanation I gave in my shiur on Modim is that people, I think that you can just thank God, that you can say Modim and just thank God. But that's not true. Is that what the real Modim, in order to say Modim properly, you need to actually develop the quality, the midah of gratitude, of hakaras hatov, and that cannot be done in the Shemona Esrei. The way that's done is through constantly thanking God for everything throughout your day. And if you view brachos that way, if you view the tool of brachos as a way to pull you out of the experience and to reflect on where the good comes from and feel the thanks of having it, then, and you say brachos with that kavana, then you will cultivate the trait of hakar tov in you, so that you can truly actually thank God when you say moni menach lilach. And so this is also why I want to plug my and I know I've talked about this a lot on the Stoic Jew podcast, but I'm gonna say it here, which is my gratitude journal practice, which came from Tara Brach, but was advocated by my chavrusa Levi Solomiak, which is, I'll just say it really quickly. I'm just looking at what day I'm on. So this is, I think one of the longest standing habits I've done. So I'm on day 1276 of the gratitude journal. And basically what you do is you have a gratitude accountability buddy, and someone, who you obviously feel comfortable like writing stuff like this with. And every day you send them an email that has 3 things you're grateful for, 1 moment of savoring where you consciously experience something usually good, but like you were in the moment experiencing something, and then 1 act of kindness that you did, and you write that. And the process of writing it and expressing it to someone else instills gratitude, but also what it does is it transforms your day, because as you go through your day, you're more aware of the good that you're experiencing, and that leads to what Ezra is describing here, which is like a focus on the good, which spills over into every area of your life. So I definitely advocate this. Again, if you want to give it a try, I say, let's say we're halfway through January, so take the next 2 weeks and do it and see how it changes your experience, and make it a 2-week experiment and see if that works for you. Okay, I'm gonna call on Isaac now, and then we'll end after that for today. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm very excited about this idea.
Okay.
So I think he's addressing. So I'm gonna say that the way I'm reading it is like Ripsadigun, but where it makes sense that it uses the lashon of ani.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the havamina that it's talking about is, I say people have havamina. A poor person has a bad life, but a wealthy person is able to be partying constantly because he has a lot of money, so he can be constantly feasting and getting enjoyment.
Yeah.
So that's like the
Yep.
That's like the natural way people think.
Yeah.
But he's making a shift here, and by instead of putting usher, he's saying tov leiv, which I'm going to say is someone who's has a good mind / emotions. Like I'd say someone who's like on the right path.
Yeah.
Then then basically all of their experiences are pretty much, not literally all of them, but it's basically just like a constant party, because they're whatever things happen to them, whether good or bad, then they're able to like think about it and like respond to it in a way where overall they're just much happier, because because they are tov leiv. Whereas an ani, which is someone who's kolish b'das, then they're like tossed about on like the winds of life, or there's something I'm trying to quote, but I don't remember it well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's my overall approach.
Yeah. So an ani is subject to the vicissitudes of
that was the word I was thinking of.
Yeah, of fortune. Yeah. And is not able to, I guess, proactively respond to what happens to him to make it good. Okay, good. Yeah, that's a very stoicism stoic type of approach. Yeah. All right, good. All right, so let's continue thinking about this. The difficulty with this pasuk, I think, is it is very easy to read our own ideas into it. I'm not saying that any of you are doing that, but I think that like when coming up with an idea for this pasuk, the more you can make it match every single word in the pasuk, then the more reliable it is, which is true in general. But I feel like here we need to be on guard against projecting. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right. So
That
we
makes
will continue tomorrow. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.